The Galactic Council's weekly intelligence briefing contained the same boring information about humanity that it had for the past 200 years. The primitive species remained trapped in their solar system, using crude chemical rockets to barely reach their own moon. Their radio signals showed they still fought wars with explosive weapons and struggled with basic diseases that Council medicine had cured millennia ago. Most Council members had forgotten humans existed at all. What the Council didn't know was that every single piece of data about humanity was carefully crafted fiction. 300 light-years from Earth, Admiral River Stone walked through the Command Center of New Geneva, humanity's most advanced hidden colony. The massive underground complex housed 12 million people beneath the surface of a world that appeared lifeless to any scanning ship. Above them, sophisticated holographic projectors created the illusion of a barren rock while atmospheric. Processors worked deep underground to maintain perfect living conditions. River paused at the main display screen that showed the real scope of humanity's secret empire. 47 star systems glowed with hidden human colonies, each one carefully concealed behind technology that made Council stealth systems look like children's toys. The display showed population numbers that would have shocked any alien observer. Humanity hadn't remained at 8 billion people as their false broadcasts claimed. They now numbered over 2 trillion souls spread across the galaxy. The deception had started accidentally. When the first Council survey ship had visited Earth 2 centuries ago, a lucky solar flare had destroyed one of their scout vessels in the asteroid belt. Human salvage teams had recovered the wreckage before anyone noticed it was missing. Within 10 years, human scientists had reverse-engineered faster-than-light travel, energy shields, and quantum communication systems. The world's leaders faced a choice. They could announce their breakthrough and likely face immediate subjugation by a council that viewed primitive species as resources to be managed, or they could pretend to remain primitive while secretly expanding into space. The decision hadn't been difficult. River remembered her grandmother's stories about the early days. The first colony ships had been crude affairs, barely functional copies of Council technology hidden inside fake asteroids. The colonists had lived in constant fear of discovery, knowing that a single mistake would doom not just themselves, but all of humanity. Every transmission had to be carefully timed to avoid Council patrol routes. Every settlement had to be perfectly camouflaged, but humans had always been good at adaptation. Within 50 years, they had developed cloaking technology that surpassed anything in Council arsenals. Their ships didn't just hide from sensors, they actively fooled them, appearing as cosmic dust or background radiation. Human colonies didn't, just avoid detection. They made their star systems look completely uninhabitable to outside observers. Now River commanded the most advanced fleet in known space. Her ships used drives that folded space itself, making the journey between stars instantaneous. Their weapons could manipulate matter at the quantum level, turning an enemy's own hull into their weakness. Most importantly, they were completely invisible to Council detection methods. The irony wasn't lost on her. While Council species built larger and larger ships to display their power, humans had learned the value of staying hidden. Their vessels were sleek and efficient, designed for stealth rather than intimidation. A single human destroyer carried more firepower than most Council battleships, but looked like nothing more than a piece of space debris when its cloaking systems were active. River's second-in-command, Colonel Tom Walker, approached with the daily intelligence report. The man had spent 30 years in the Shadow Fleet, watching Council movements and learning their weaknesses. Every Council ship design, every military tactic, every political alliance had been studied and cataloged by human observers who didn't officially exist. "Admiral, we have a problem," Tom said quietly. "The Ultrans are moving toward war with the Kef Collective. Our analysis suggests they'll attack the Vega sector within the week." River felt her stomach tighten. 3 of their hidden colonies existed in that region, including the research station at Kepler 7c, where 50,000 humans worked on advanced weapons projects. If the Altrans swept through the sector with their usual brutal efficiency, discovery was almost inevitable. "Have we maintained perfect communications silence with the research station?" she asked. "Yes, Admiral. They haven't transmitted anything for 6 months. But their quantum laboratories generate some exotic energy signatures that our analysts worry might be detectable during heavy combat. If Altran ships get close enough while running deep scans during battle conditions..." River studied the tactical display. The Altran Empire was the most aggressive member of the Council, known for their policy of destroying anything they couldn't understand or control. Their ships carried sensors specifically designed to hunt for hidden bases and secret installations. If they discovered even one human facility, they would begin a systematic search that would eventually reveal humanity's entire shadow civilization. Dr. Research Station at Kepler 7c represented humanity's best minds working on their most advanced projects. The scientists there had developed weapons that could manipulate gravity itself and shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Losing them would set human technology back decades. But more importantly, the station housed families. Children played in underground parks while their parents pushed the boundaries of physics. Entire communities had grown up in the hidden colonies, knowing Earth only through stories and historical records. River had sworn an oath to protect humanity's secret. 200 years of careful expansion, trillions of lives living free from Council control, the future of the human species itself, all depended on maintaining the illusion that they remained primitive and confined to their solar system. Breaking that silence would invite immediate retaliation from species that possessed the power to sterilize planets. But she had also sworn to protect human lives. The colonel waited patiently while she wrestled with the decision. Around them, the command center hummed with activity as thousands of officers monitored human colonies across the galaxy. Each person in this room knew they were part of humanity's greatest secret. They had volunteered to live their entire lives in the shadows, never able to return to Earth, never able to contact friends and family they had left behind. They served knowing that their existence could never be acknowledged or celebrated. The display screen updated with new intelligence from their deep space monitoring stations. Altran battle fleets had begun moving toward Vega. Within 72 hours, they would reach the outer edges of the system, where humanity's most valuable research facility sat hidden beneath layers of deception and camouflage. River closed her eyes and thought about the children at the research station. They trusted the adults around them to keep them safe. They played games and attended schools and dreamed about the day they might see the stars their parents worked so hard to protect. They had no idea that their entire civilization existed in defiance of galactic law. The Admiral opened her eyes and looked at the tactical display one more time. Sometimes the choice wasn't between right and wrong. Sometimes it was between two kinds of duty, two kinds of love, two kinds of sacrifice. The mathematics were simple. Revealing humanity's true capabilities might doom their entire species, but standing by while innocents died would doom their souls. Dr. Emily Ross had spent 8 years on the research station orbiting Kepler 7c without ever seeing natural sunlight. The artificial lighting in the underground complex perfectly mimicked Earth's day-night cycle, but she sometimes missed the random warmth of real sunshine on her face. Today, she didn't have time to think about such things. The quantum resonance experiments were entering their final phase, and the results would revolutionize human understanding of space and time. The research station existed 3 miles beneath the surface of Kepler 7c's largest moon, completely invisible to any scanning technology the Council possessed. 50,000 people lived and worked in the sprawling complex, from brilliant scientists like Emily to the teachers who ran schools for their children, the engineers who maintained their life support systems, and the farmers who grew food in massive hydroponic bays. The station was completely self-sufficient, designed to operate for decades without any outside contact. Emily's team had been working on weaponizing quantum entanglement, creating devices that could affect matter across vast distances instantaneously. The theoretical applications were staggering. They could disable enemy ships without ever getting close to them, or create shields that existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. The work was so advanced that even human physicists back on Earth wouldn't understand it for another century. The first sign of trouble came from the deep space monitoring stations that watched for Council ship movements. Emergency broadcasts began reaching the research facility through heavily encrypted quantum channels. The Altran Empire had declared war on the Kef Collective over mining rights in the Vega sector. Altran battle fleets were already moving toward their target systems. Emily found herself in the station's main assembly hall along with 49,000 other residents. Director Paul Anderson, a former Earth military officer who had commanded the research facility for 12 years, stood before them with obvious tension in his voice. "The Altrans will reach this system within 48 hours, he announced. Their standard battle tactics include deep sensor sweeps designed to locate hidden installations. Our camouflage systems are the best humanity has ever built. But Altran military scanners are specifically designed to find concealed bases." A murmur ran through the crowd. Everyone understood the implications. If the Altrans discovered the research station, they wouldn't just destroy it. They would begin a systematic search of nearby systems that would eventually reveal humanity's entire secret civilization. 200 years of careful expansion would be undone by a single moment of bad luck. "We are implementing total blackout protocols immediately," Anderson continued. "All non-essential systems will be shut down. All quantum experiments will cease. No communications will be sent or received. We will become as invisible as possible and hope they pass us by." Emily felt her heart sink. Her team was only days away from completing their work on quantum weapons. The research represented years of effort by some of humanity's most brilliant minds, but she understood the necessity. The survival of their entire species was more important than any single scientific breakthrough. The next 36 hours passed in artificial calm. The station's population went about their daily routines as much as possible, but everyone knew they were holding their breath. Children attended classes where teachers struggled to maintain normalcy while checking emergency broadcasts. Scientists sat in their laboratories with powered-down equipment, unable to work on projects that might generate detectable energy signatures. Families gathered in common areas, speaking in whispers about what might happen if they were discovered. Emily spent the time reviewing her research data, memorizing equations and experimental results in case they had to destroy all their computers. The Quantum Weapons Project represented humanity's best hope of defending themselves against Council technology. Even if the research station was lost, someone needed to remember what they had learned. The Altran fleet arrived exactly on schedule. Deep space sensors tracked 12 battlecruisers and 36 destroyers as they swept into the Vega sector, immediately attacking Kef defensive positions with overwhelming firepower. The aliens didn't believe in gradual escalation or negotiated surrenders. They preferred to crush their enemies quickly and completely. For 18 hours, the research station remained undetected as the battle raged in the outer system. Altran. Ships focused their attention on military targets, systematically destroying Kef fleet installations and orbital defenses. Their sensors remained focused outward, looking for enemy vessels trying to escape or reinforcements trying to arrive. Then something went wrong. A power coupling in the station's main reactor developed a microfracture, causing a brief energy surge that traveled through the facility's power grid. For exactly 3 seconds, the research station's cloaking systems flickered. The disruption was tiny, lasting barely long enough to register on most detection equipment, but Altran sensors were designed to notice exactly that kind of anomaly. Emergency alarms began sounding throughout the research station as passive sensors detected 3 Altran destroyers changing course toward their position. The alien ships had noticed the energy signature and were moving to investigate. Within 6 hours, they would be close enough to penetrate even fully functional cloaking systems with their military-grade scanners. Director Anderson's voice echoed through every corridor in the facility. "All personnel to emergency stations, prepare for potential evacuation. This is not a drill." Emily ran to her laboratory where her team was frantically trying to save their research data. The quantum weapons project couldn't be allowed to fall into alien hands. But destroying years of work felt like tearing apart their own children. They copied the most critical equations onto portable storage devices while systematically wiping their main computers. In the command center, Anderson stared at tactical displays that showed the approaching Altran ships. The research station had emergency evacuation procedures, but they required at least 12 hours to safely move 50,000 people to the hidden transport vessels. The Altrans would arrive in 6. The facility had defensive weapons, but using them would guarantee discovery by every Council ship in the sector. Their stealth systems were designed for hiding, not fighting. Once they opened fire, the secret would be out forever. Anderson activated the station's quantum communication system for what might be the last time. The message went directly to Admiral Riverstone at the Shadow Fleet's Command Center 300 light-years away. The encryption was so complex that decoding it would take Council computers several million years. "Admiral, we have been compromised. 3 Altran destroyers are approaching our position. Evacuation is impossible. We estimate 6 hours until discovery. Request immediate orders." The response came back within minutes. "Maintain radio silence. Do not reveal yourselves under any circumstances. The security of our entire civilization depends on it." Anderson stared at the message for a long moment. He understood the mathematics involved, revealing humanity's true capabilities to save. One research station would likely doom their entire species. 2 trillion people living in hidden colonies across 47 star systems would be exposed to Council retaliation. The logical choice was obvious, but logic became more difficult when you were looking at 50,000 faces that trusted you to protect them. Emily arrived in the command center with her portable data storage. "Director, the quantum weapons research is secured. If we're evacuated, we can continue the work elsewhere." Anderson looked at her tired face and thought about the children in the station's schools. They were playing games and drawing pictures, completely unaware that enemy warships were racing toward them. Their parents had brought them to this hidden facility, believing it would keep them safe from the dangers of the galaxy. The tactical display updated again. The Altran ships were now 5 hours away and accelerating. Their sensor signatures showed. They were preparing for detailed scans of the moon's surface. Once they began their investigation, discovery was inevitable. Anderson activated the communication system one final time. His message to Admiral Stone was brief and simple. "Admiral, we understand the cost, but there are children here. We accept whatever comes next." Then he shut down the quantum communicator and waited for the aliens to arrive. Admiral Riverstone read the final message from the research station 3 times before making her decision. Around her, the command center of New Geneva buzzed with activity as officers monitored the crisis unfolding in the Vega sector. Every person in the room understood what was at stake. 200 years of perfect secrecy, the safety of 2 trillion hidden humans, the survival of their entire species. The mathematics were simple. Sacrificing 50,000 people to protect 2 trillion was the logical choice. Any military commander would make the same decision. But River had never been just a military commander. She was a human being, and human beings didn't abandon their own. "Tom," she called to her second-in-command, "signal the fleet. Operation Daylight is authorized." Colonel Walker looked stunned. Operation Daylight was their contingency plan for revealing humanity's true capabilities. It had been developed decades ago, but never seriously considered for implementation. "Admiral, are you certain? Once we break radio silence, there's no going back." There are children on that research station, Colonel. We're not letting them die to preserve our secret. Within minutes, encrypted signals flashed across human space as the Shadow Fleet received their activation orders. Ships that had remained hidden for decades suddenly came alive, their crews preparing for humanity's first open military action in over 2 centuries. The vessels were sleek and deadly, built with technology that made Council ships look primitive. River chose the Defiant Dawn for her flagship, a dreadnought that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. The ship was only 800 meters long, tiny compared to Council battlecruisers, but it packed enough firepower to destroy a small moon. More importantly, it was equipped with experimental technology that could bend space and time around itself. The journey to Vega Sector took 17 minutes using humanity's most advanced drive systems. River spent the time reviewing intelligence reports about Altran military capabilities. The alien species was known for their aggressive tactics and brutal efficiency. They preferred to destroy anything they couldn't understand rather than risk. Potential threats. If they discovered the research station, they would sterilize the entire moon without bothering to investigate what they had found. The Defiant Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system, its sensors immediately locating the 3 Altran destroyers approaching the hidden research station. The alien vessels were impressive by Council standards, each one nearly 2 kilometers long and bristling with energy weapons. Their hulls showed the scars of recent combat as they finished mopping up Kef resistance in the outer system. River studied the tactical display. The lead Altran ship was already beginning deep scans of the moon's surface. In approximately 8 minutes, they would penetrate the research station's cloaking systems and discover 50,000 humans who weren't supposed to exist. Helm, take us in. Weapons, prepare quantum disruptors. Communications, open a channel. To the Altran vessels. The Defiant Dawn accelerated toward the enemy ships, its experimental cloaking systems making it completely invisible to Altran sensors. The human dreadnought could have destroyed all 3 destroyers without ever being detected, but River wanted to give them a chance to surrender first. Altran vessels, this is Admiral Riverstone of the Terran Shadow Fleet. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. The response was exactly what she had expected. The Altran commander's translator-filtered voice crackled with arrogance and disbelief. Unknown vessel, identify yourself immediately. No ship matching your energy signature exists in Council records. You are in violation of Altran territorial claims. This system is under human protection. You have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal. Laughter echoed across the communication channel. Humans? The primitive species confined to their single world? Your deception is pathetic. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. River sighed. She had hoped the aliens would be reasonable, but Altrans were known for their pride. Tom, drop cloak. All weapons online. The Defiant Dawn materialized directly between the Altran destroyers and the research station, its hull gleaming with defensive energy fields that bent light around its edges. The human ship was smaller than any of the alien vessels, but it radiated technological sophistication that made Council designs look crude. The Altrans opened fire immediately, unleashing enough energy to destroy a small city. Their plasma cannons and particle beams should have vaporized any ship caught in their crossfire. Instead, their weapons seemed to bend around the Defiant Dawn, deflected by shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The human ship didn't even slow down. River checked the chronometer. They had been in combat for 47 seconds. Time to end this. Weapons, target their main power systems. Quantum disruptors, minimum setting. I want them disabled, not destroyed. The Defiant Dawn's response was surgical and devastating. Invisible beams of quantum energy reached across space, passing through the Altran ship's shields as if they didn't exist. The weapons didn't damage hull plating or destroy equipment. Instead, they convinced the aliens' own power systems to shut themselves down. Within 3 minutes, All three Altran destroyers were drifting powerlessly through space, their crews, struggling to understand what had happened to them. Emergency power kept their life support functioning, but their weapons, shields, and engines had simply stopped working. Their own technology had turned against them. River opened the communication channel again. "Altran, Commander, your ships have been disabled but not destroyed. Evacuate this system within 6 hours, and you will be allowed to repair your vessels. Remain here, and we will be forced to take more direct action." The response was filled with rage and confusion. "Impossible! Human technology is centuries behind ours. Your species barely understands faster-than-light travel." "Apparently, we understand it better than you do. You have 6 hours." But River knew the revelation wouldn't end with 3 disabled ships. The Altrons would report what they had seen to their military command. Within days, every Council species would know that humans possessed technology that made their own weapons. Looked like children's toys. The secret was out. Emergency broadcasts were already flashing across Council space as other ships in the sector detected the impossible energy signatures from human technology. The quantum weapons that Emily's team had developed weren't just theoretical anymore. They were changing the balance of power in the galaxy with every shot fired. Within 12 hours, reports reached the Galactic Council's emergency session. A human ship had appeared from nowhere and effortlessly defeated 3 Altran destroyers using weapons that defied known physics. The primitive species that couldn't even leave their solar system had somehow developed technology that made Council fleets obsolete. Panic spread through alien governments as intelligence agencies scrambled to reassess everything they thought they knew about humanity. Deep space monitoring stations began detecting energy signatures that suggested human ships were moving throughout Council territory. Vessels that had been invisible for decades were suddenly revealing themselves as they dropped their cloaking systems. The truth was staggering. Humans hadn't remained confined to Earth. They had been expanding across the galaxy for 2 centuries, building colonies and fleets while maintaining perfect deception. Worse yet, their hidden civilization possessed technology that could make any Council species irrelevant overnight. Admiral Stone received regular intelligence updates as the situation escalated. The Zenith Hegemony, the Council's oldest and most powerful member species, was mobilizing their entire stellar navy. The Altran Empire had declared humanity a galactic threat and was calling for immediate military action. 3 smaller species had already surrendered preemptively, offering to serve human interests in exchange for protection. But the most important message came from Earth itself. The planet's official government, still unaware of the shadow colonies, was receiving frantic communications from Council representatives demanding explanations. The deception had become impossible to maintain. After 2 centuries of perfect secrecy, humanity's true nature was being exposed to the entire galaxy. River stood in the command center of the Defiant Dawn, watching displays that showed human ships revealing themselves throughout Council space. The secret expansion was over. Now they would discover whether 200 years of hidden preparation had been enough to protect them from the storm that was coming. The research station at Kepler 7c transmitted a brief message of thanks before beginning evacuation procedures. 50,000 people would live to continue their work elsewhere. The children in the facility's schools would grow up to see the stars their parents had fought to protect. But the price of saving them might be a war that would consume the entire galaxy. River thought about her grandmother's stories of the early colony ships and the courage of those first settlers who had risked everything to give humanity a future among the stars. They had gambled that secrecy would protect them long enough to become strong. Now their descendants would discover if they had grown strong enough to survive in the light. Lord Caney Aros had ruled the Zenith Hegemony for over 3 centuries and had never experienced genuine fear until today. The ancient alien leader sat in his personal chambers aboard the massive command ship Eternal Glory, reviewing intelligence, reports that challenged everything he thought he understood about the galaxy. For 200 years, his species had viewed humans as barely evolved primitives who posed no threat to galactic order. That comfortable certainty had been shattered. In less than 24 hours, the reports painted an impossible picture. Human ships had appeared in 17 different star systems simultaneously, all of them using technology that made zenith science look primitive. These weren't converted council vessels or crude copies of alien designs. They were completely original creations that seemed to operate on principles the Zenith didn't even understand. Worse yet, each ship carried energy signatures suggesting they had been built decades ago using manufacturing techniques that shouldn't exist. Intelligence. Analysts had spent the day trying to estimate the true size of humanity's hidden civilization. The numbers were staggering. Conservative estimates suggested at least 40 star systems contained human colonies, with total population figures that could rival the entire Galactic Council. More disturbing were the energy readings that indicated human industrial capacity, far exceeded anything previously recorded. They hadn't just been hiding ships and settlements. They had built an entire parallel civilization that operated according to completely different technological principles. Caney activated his personal communication system and contacted General Mark Voss, the Zenith military commander responsible for their response to the human crisis. The general's holographic image appeared immediately, his four-armed form tense with barely controlled agitation. "Lord Caney, our deep space monitors are detecting more human vessels every hour. They're not even trying to hide anymore. We count at least 3,000 ships moving openly through Council territory, and that's certainly only a fraction of their total fleet strength." "What is the status of our mobilization?" Caney asked. "Every available vessel is being recalled to home systems. We should have our full battle fleet assembled within 72 hours. 100,000 ships representing the combined might of 11 Council species. But Lord Caney, I must advise caution. Human technology appears to be far more advanced than our initial estimates suggested." Caney's primary eyes narrowed. Dangerously, the Zenith hegemony had dominated galactic politics for over 5,000 years. Their technological superiority was absolute, their military power unquestioned. The idea that a species they had dismissed as primitive could pose any genuine threat was absurd. "General, you are allowing yourself to be intimidated by elaborate deceptions. These humans have clearly stolen Council technology and modified it beyond safe parameters. Their ships are probably burning out their own systems with each use. We will crush them quickly before they can cause any real damage to galactic stability." But even as Caney spoke the words, he couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The human ship that had disabled 3 Altran destroyers hadn't used any recognizable weapons technology. Instead, it had somehow convinced the alien vessel's own systems to shut down. That level of technological sophistication suggested understanding of quantum mechanics that even Zenith scientists had never achieved. The reports kept getting worse throughout the day. Human colonies were revealing themselves across Council space, each one protected by defensive systems that made traditional weapons ineffective. The installation at Wolf 359 had been attacked by a Rillan patrol fleet, only to watch their entire assault force get captured without suffering any casualties. The humans had somehow disabled the alien ships and returned them with a simple message attached: "Next time we keep them." Most troubling of all were the intelligence estimates about how long humans had been watching Council activities. Intercepted. Communications suggested they had been monitoring alien military movements for decades, possibly centuries. Every Council ship design, every tactical doctrine, every strategic weakness had been studied and cataloged by observers who didn't officially exist. The humans knew everything about their enemies while remaining completely unknown themselves. Caney found himself thinking about historical precedents for such massive intelligence failures. The Zenith had survived 5 millennia by never underestimating potential threats. They had built their empire through careful analysis of enemy capabilities and systematic elimination of rivals before they could become dangerous. How had they missed an entire civilization developing under their sensors? The answer was disturbing. The humans hadn't just hidden from Council observation. They had actively deceived it, creating false data and fake communications that painted them as harmless primitives while they built the most advanced military force in known space. The level of coordination and patience required for such deception was beyond anything Caney had previously encountered. General Voss's image flickered back to life with an urgent update. "Lord Caney, we have a new development. The Altran Empire has launched a preemptive strike against Earth itself. Admiral Kyle Morrison is leading their entire home fleet toward the human homeworld. They intend to destroy the source of this threat before it can spread further." Caney felt a moment of satisfaction. The Altrans were brutal and efficient when properly motivated. Their assault would test human capabilities under maximum pressure and possibly end the crisis before it could escalate further. "What is the composition of their attack force?" 1,200 heavy cruisers, 3,000 destroyers, and their flagship dreadnought Crimson Vengeance. Admiral Morrison is using scorched earth tactics. He intends to sterilize the entire solar system. The attack should have been overwhelming. The Altran Empire possessed one of the most powerful fleets in Council space, and Admiral Morrison was known for his ruthless efficiency. Earth's official government claimed to have no faster-than-light capability and no meaningful defensive systems. By all logical analysis, the human homeworld should be defenseless against such massive retaliation. The battle lasted 18 minutes. Caney watched the recordings afterward, trying to understand what he had witnessed. The Altran fleet had dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, expecting to find a primitive world protected by nothing more than crude orbital platforms. Instead, they discovered that humanity's supposed homeworld was surrounded by defensive installations that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The human response wasn't gradual or merciful. Weapons that bent space itself reached across millions of kilometers to disable Altran ships before they could even lock onto targets. The alien vessel's own shields turned against them, creating feedback loops that shut down their power systems. Within minutes, the most powerful assault fleet in Altran history was drifting helplessly through space. But the humans didn't destroy their enemies. Instead, they captured every single ship intact, using technology that could selectively shut down specific systems while leaving life support functioning perfectly. The Altran crews found themselves prisoners aboard their own vessels, completely unable to control their weapons or engines. Then came the message that changed everything. Admiral Morrison himself transmitted a brief statement across all Council frequencies. "The humans could have destroyed us easily. Instead, they chose mercy. We surrender unconditionally and request permission to return home." The psychological impact was devastating. The Altrans were known throughout the galaxy for their pride and refusal to admit defeat. Admiral Morrison had built his reputation on never retreating from any battle. For him to publicly surrender and beg for mercy suggested that human capabilities were beyond anything Council forces could match. Caney stared at the tactical analysis until his eyes ached. The defensive grid around Earth represented technology that seemed to violate basic physics. Human ships had appeared and disappeared without using any recognizable drive systems. Most disturbing of all, they had demonstrated perfect restraint, choosing to capture rather than kill, even when facing a force that intended to commit genocide. General Voss's final report contained the information that would haunt Caney's nightmares for years to come. "Lord Caney, our long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Every star system they control is showing industrial output that exceeds our most productive worlds. We estimate their manufacturing capacity is at least 50 times greater than our previous assessment suggested." The implications were staggering. Not only did humans possess superior technology, they could build ships faster than Council forces could destroy them. Any prolonged conflict would favor the species with greater industrial capacity and more advanced weapon systems. The mathematics of warfare had suddenly become very simple and very frightening. Caney made the decision that would define the rest of his reign. The Zenith fleet would advance as planned, but not to attack. They would offer humanity terms for peaceful coexistence. The alternative was a war that could destroy galactic civilization itself. He only hoped the humans would prove as merciful with the Zenith as they had been with the Ultrons. Chancellor Wade Thompson had been elected to lead humanity's secret government 30 years ago, but nobody in the Galactic Council had ever heard his name. The elderly statesman had spent his entire career managing the hidden civilization that operated beyond alien knowledge, making decisions that affected 2 trillion people while remaining completely unknown to the galaxy at large. Today, he would introduce himself to the universe in the most dramatic way possible. The combined Council fleet represented the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 100,000 warships from 11 different species hung in space at the edge of human territory, their hulls bristling with enough weapons to sterilize entire star systems. Every major Council leader had committed their most powerful vessels to this final confrontation. They called it humanity's last chance to surrender before facing complete annihilation. Thompson's response was to meet them personally in the smallest diplomatic vessel humanity possessed. The ship Peaceful Dawn was barely 50 meters long, designed for ceremonial functions rather than combat. It carried no weapons, no shields, and no escort vessels. Against the backdrop of the massive Council armada, it looked like a child's toy floating in an ocean of predators. Thompson had specifically chosen the tiny craft to make a point about confidence. He stood alone in the ship's simple passenger compartment, reviewing the speech he had been preparing for decades. Every human leader since the beginning of the secret expansion had known this moment would eventually come. The mathematics were inevitable. You couldn't hide an entire civilization forever, especially one that grew as rapidly as humanity had managed. Eventually, secrecy would become impossible, and they would face the choice between submission and war. Thompson had never wanted war. His entire political philosophy was built around the idea that strength should be used to protect rather than conquer, but he also understood that peaceful species couldn't survive in a galaxy where primitive civilizations were routinely enslaved or exterminated. Sometimes the only way to achieve peace was to demonstrate that war would be too costly for anyone to consider. The Peaceful Dawn approached the Council flagship Eternal Glory using conventional drives that took nearly 2 hours to cross the distance between fleets. Thompson spent the time reading intelligence reports about Lord Cain Eros, the ancient Zenith leader who commanded the Allied Armada. The alien was known for his pride, his political cunning, and his absolute belief in Zenith superiority. Convincing him to accept a new balance of power would require careful psychology. The Council fleet's sensors tracked the tiny human ship throughout its approach, no doubt analyzing its simple construction and primitive technology. Thompson smiled at their confusion. Let them wonder why humanity's leader would risk himself in such a defenseless vessel. The answer would become clear soon enough. Lord Caney received him aboard the Eternal Glory with all the ceremony due to a head of state, though Thompson noticed the heavy security presence and the barely concealed contempt in the alien leader's expression. The Zenith clearly expected this meeting to be humanity's formal surrender, followed by negotiations about the terms of their subjugation. They met in Caney's private conference chamber, a massive space designed to intimidate visitors. With its display of Zenith power and authority, ancient weapons from conquered civilizations lined the walls, while holographic displays showed the extent of the hegemony's territorial holdings. Thompson took a seat at the ornate conference table and waited for the alien leader to begin what he no doubt expected to be humanity's capitulation. Chancellor Thompson, Caney began with formal politeness, your species has demonstrated impressive technological capabilities, but you face the combined might of galactic civilization. 100,000 ships carry enough firepower to reduce your colonies to cosmic dust. Surely you understand that continued resistance would be suicide. Thompson smiled calmly. Lord Kane, I appreciate your concern for human welfare, but before we discuss terms, perhaps you should understand exactly what you're facing. He activated a small device that projected a holographic display showing the current positions of every ship in the surrounding space. The Council Armada appeared, as expected, but additional contacts began materializing around them. Thousands of human vessels became visible on the display, surrounding the alien fleet in a perfect sphere of overwhelming firepower. Kaney's expression shifted from confidence to confusion to dawning horror as he realized the implications. Impossible! Our sensors detected no human ships in this region. Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect, Thompson replied quietly. Lord Kaney, while your fleet was gathering here, my military commanders were positioning assets throughout this entire sector. Every human colony ship, every cloaked vessel, every hidden weapons platform in this region of the galaxy has been moved into position around your forces. The holographic display updated to show the true scope of humanity's presence. The Council fleet was outnumbered by more than 10 to 1, surrounded by ships that could have destroyed them at any moment. During the past 3 days, Thompson had allowed the alien armada to gather in what they thought was a position of strength, while actually walking into the most sophisticated trap in military history. The quantum resonance weapons developed at our Kepler research facility can disable your ships without destroying them. Thompson continued conversationally. Our manufacturing capacity allows us to build vessels faster than you can destroy them. Most importantly, we've been studying your technology and tactics for 2 centuries while remaining completely unknown to your intelligence services. Kaney stared at the display in silence, his forearms trembling slightly as he processed the mathematics of their situation. The most powerful military force in galactic history had been outmaneuvered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Every tactical advantage they possessed had been neutralized by superior technology and careful planning. What do you want? The alien leader asked quietly. The same thing we've always wanted, Thompson replied. To live in peace without constant fear of extinction. Lord Kaney, humanity never sought galactic domination. We expanded in secret because history shows what happens to primitive species when advanced civilizations discover them. We've spent 2 centuries learning to protect ourselves, not because we wanted to conquer others, but because we wanted to survive. Thompson stood and walked to one of the chamber's large windows, looking out at the vast armadas facing each other in space. Your council maintains policies that allow the enslavement or extermination of species deemed insufficiently advanced. You've destroyed civilizations for the crime of existing without permission. We couldn't allow that to happen to humanity. So you deceived us for 200 years, Kaney said, anger finally breaking through his shock. We protected ourselves for 200 years, Thompson corrected. Every species in this fleet possesses the power to sterilize planets. You've all used that power when it suited your political goals. We simply chose to develop the capability to stop you if necessary. The elderly human leader turned back to face the alien commander with sad eyes. Lord Kaney, I know this is difficult for you to accept. Your species has dominated galactic politics for 5 millennia. The idea that humans could become your equals, let alone your superiors, challenges everything you believe about natural order. Thompson activated another control on his device. The holographic display showed energy signatures from human weapons, systems throughout the surrounding fleet. Every ship in the Council Armada was already locked onto by quantum disruptors that could disable them instantly. The aliens had been helpless since the moment they arrived. I could destroy your entire fleet right now, Thompson said simply. 1 signal from me would disable every Council ship in this sector. Your crews would survive, but your vessels would become helpless drift hulks floating in space. The balance of power in the galaxy would shift permanently in humanity's favor. Kaney's expression cracked as the full weight of his defeat became clear. The proud Zenith leader, who had never bowed to any species, slowly sank to his knees, his voice breaking with desperation. "Please, spare my people. They followed my orders. If you must punish someone for our arrogance, punish me alone." Thompson looked down at the kneeling alien with genuine sadness. "Lord Caney, we never wanted your submission. We wanted your respect. Stand up." The Zenith leader rose slowly, confusion replacing fear in his ancient eyes. "Humanity will not destroy the Council or dominate galactic civilization," Thompson continued. "Instead, we propose a reformed alliance based on mutual respect rather than fear. Species that choose peaceful coexistence will find us the most reliable allies they've ever known. Those that threaten innocent civilizations will discover why it took us 2 centuries to reveal ourselves." Thompson's final holographic display showed human ships stationed throughout Council space, their positions chosen to protect smaller species that had been vulnerable to exploitation. "The age of strong species preying upon weak ones is ending, Lord Kane. From now on, bullies will find themselves facing opponents who fight back." The conference chamber fell silent as both leaders contemplated the fundamental change that had just occurred. The Galactic Council would continue to exist, but humanity would be its most powerful member. The species that had once been considered primitive would now serve as protectors for civilizations throughout the galaxy. Thompson collected his holographic projector and prepared to return to his ship. "Lord Caney, you're welcome to return home and explain the new situation to your government. We'll be establishing formal diplomatic relations with all Council species within the month. I suggest you prepare your people for a very different kind of galaxy." As the peaceful dawn departed from the eternal glory, Thompson reflected on the long journey that had brought humanity to this moment. 2 centuries of secrecy, sacrifice, and careful planning had culminated in a single conversation that changed the balance of power forever. The species that had once hidden in fear now stood ready to ensure that no other civilization would face the same terror of extinction. Behind him, the human fleet began dispersing to their new assignments as peacekeepers and protectors throughout Council space. The secret was finally over, but humanity's real work was just beginning.